Welcome and good evening, friends. I, Reena Patil, on behalf of Divine Magic Foundation, welcome each one of you on the web series started by Divine Magic Foundation, episode 1. Friends, Indian Menopause Society is completing 25 years, and today's discussion will be focused on revisiting the role of menopause hormonal therapy, which has been under scanner since long for its side effects on long-term use. However, recent global consensus has been reached on the definite use of hormones in menopausal age for improving quality of life in perimenopause and menopausal women. So today, Dr. Payal Bhargava, the founder of Divine Magic Foundation, is here to bring awareness amongst medical fraternity and healthcare providers on the role of hormones in menopausal age. So before I hand over session to Payal ma'am, I would like to introduce uh, Dr. Payal Bhargav. So Dr. Payal Bhargava, she has a fellowship in infertility from IMA Hyderabad. She is a lifetime member of IMA Menopause Society in India and PCO Society India. She is part of managing committee of PCO Society of India for clinical research and awareness program. She is co-founder of Divine Magic Foundation, co-founder and director on board XPS Analyticals, medical officer at FPA India, consultant at Sri Krishna Diagnostic Center, and visiting consultant at Pradna Hospital, Madhapur. Ma'am, welcome. And with this, I hand over session to Dr. Payal Bhargava.
Thank you, Reena, for your introduction. So we'll straight away go to the topic. Reena, allow me to share the screen.
Ma'am, allowed.
So today we are going to discuss all about menopausal hormonal therapy. The idea of doing this webinar is so that all the doctors, whoever a middle-aged woman with perimenopausal or menopausal symptoms goes to, they are aware of the therapy available for the patient.
So moving on to, starting with the discussion, ma'am, how do you define perimenopause and menopause? What is the basic definition of both? How do we differentiate both these, phases of life in a woman? There is so much of confusion sometimes in a woman who is approaching menopause, but she doesn't know how to differentiate between both the phases.
So defining the perimenopause and menopause. Perimenopause marks the beginning of menopause transition, starting with menstrual irregularity of more than 7 days between consecutive cycles, last menstrual period, and continuing for 12 months after that. Short cycles are biomarker of menopause and early menopause transition. The menopause is a permanent cessation of menstruation and is said to have occurred when 12 months have passed since the last menstrual period, resulting from loss of ovarian follicular activity. So the basic difference between the two is we say it is menopause only after she has not had period for 1 whole year. So there are stages of menopause from 0 to 35 years. She is in the premenopausal age group. She has regular periods. From the last regular period to the menopause, it is the perimenopause age group in which she has irregular periods, night sweats, weight gain, hot flushes, and loss of libido.
Ma'am, next, moving on to age. Does age at menopause really matter?
Yes, age at menopause matters. The later the age of menopause, it is associated with greater life expectancy, reduced all-cause mortality, reduced risk of cardiovascular disease, reduced risk of osteoporosis and fracture, and better quality of life. In India, the menopause age is between 46 to 47.5 years. That is the average age of menopause. Now, Indian women are likely to spend almost 23 and a half to 24 years of their lives in menopause. So it is our prime duty to give them a good quality life. The estimated menopausal population in India by 2026 is going to be more than 10 crores. So it is a huge number of women we'll be dealing with, and we should recommend and provide best medical treatment available for them.
Ma'am, what are the signs and symptoms of menopause? What are basically the indicators? What will tell a woman that maybe she is approaching menopausal stage?
So as we see that menopause is a transitional phase between perimenopause, menopause, and the late postmenopause. So in the age group between 40 to 50 years, we usually see vasomotor symptoms, sleep disorders, and mood changes. Once the menopause is attained, then there are urogenital atrophy and dyspareunia. Later on in the age group of 60 years, there is osteoporosis, atherosclerosis, coronary artery disease, and cerebrovascular disease. Now, all these are because of decreasing level of estrogen in the woman.
Ma'am, how do we approach a woman in her midlife with menopausal symptoms?
So when a woman in the perimenopausal age or in the postmenopausal age comes to us, the first thing is, as we do for all patients, we need to take a detailed history of the patient, family history. We assess her health, general health, how she is. Then we ask for the lifestyle issues. Example, smoking, alcohol, physical activity, what kind of diet she is taking. We calculate her BMI, and appropriate screening tests are done. Like we need to do pap smear, bone densitometer, and other tests. After assessing the patient, we inquire about her contraceptive requirements for 1 to 2 years after her last menstrual period. After we have done all the tests and examined the patient, we recommend the management of the patient like menopausal symptoms, vulvovaginal atrophy, sexual dysfunction, and osteoporosis prevention. Now, for the management of the patient, we divide them into two categories. Group 1 is women without symptoms, that is healthy with no symptoms, only preventive care. That is, we recommend calcium and vitamin D, iron, and whatever deficiency she has, we just correct that. Healthy with risk factors for disease and no symptoms. Again, we give preventive care. Women with latent disease, no symptoms, preventive care, and treat the underlying disease. Women with comorbidities and no symptoms, again preventive care and treat the underlying disease. Now in group 2, we have women with symptoms, that is healthy with no problems, but symptoms of menopause are there. So for these kind of patients, we recommend preventive care and treat with menopause hormonal therapy. Healthy with risk factors for disease, symptoms of menopause, we give preventive health care and risk benefits analysis before therapeutic intervention.
Ma'am, as a health practitioner, what we should know about menopause hormone therapy?
Now we have global consensus statements on menopause hormonal therapy. The principal indication for menopause hormonal therapy is alleviation of troublesome vasomotor symptoms. MHT should be part of an overall strategy aimed at improving midlife health. The dose and duration of therapy should be consistent with treatment goals. Estrogen only is appropriate therapy for women after a hysterectomy. However, when the uterus is present, a progestogen must be added to provide endometrial protection. Topical MHT is preferred when symptoms are confined to lower genital tract. Current safety data do not support MHT use in breast cancer survivors. Now we have societies now universally providing clear evidence guidelines based on recommendations intended to actively encourage optimal MHT use. In 2016, Indian Menopause Society recommendations were MHT is effective therapy for symptoms. It has to be tailored to the individual. Lowest effective dose should be started. Annual consultation is a must. Safe to use for at least 5 years. Risk and benefits differ during the menopause transition compared with post-menopause. Now, according to the 2017 NAMS Position Statement Guidelines, HT most effective for vasomotor symptoms and genitourinary syndrome, also shown to prevent bone loss and fracture. Treatment should be individualized, appropriate use to meet treatment objectives. Periodic reassessment is needed. Duration decisions require individualization. Benefits will most likely outweigh risk of symptomatic women. So as we see, everyone is recommending menopause hormonal therapy for women in the perimenopause and menopausal age group.
Ma'am, what are the benefits of menopause hormonal therapy?
Coming to the benefits of MHT, early initiation of MHT post-menopause improves survival and cardiac outcomes. Now, MHT is currently the most effective treatment for reducing hot flushes and sweats. MHT improves other symptoms including sleep problems, mood swings, feeling down, and pain during sex. MHT can be used to prevent bone loss in postmenopausal women, reduce the fracture risk. Now, studies have shown that there is 30% decrease all-cause mortality in women using MHT, 48% decrease in CHD risk, which is a huge number. MHT started less than 10 years after menopause reduced the risk of all-cause mortality and CHD compared with placebo or no treatment. Now, listing out the benefits with MHT, it reduces vasomotor and GUS symptoms, reduces osteoporosis and fracture risk, improves in osteoarthritis, reduces CVD risk in less than 60 years age women, reduces risk of type 2 diabetes mellitus, reduces abdominal obesity, prevents cognitive impairment, reduces neovascular macular lesions, reduces risk of colorectal carcinoma, reduces risk of endometrial carcinoma, and improves quality of life. So as we see, there are huge number of benefits of using MHT in women, and it must be recommended. Though used with precaution, we should give patient a chance to have all these benefits provided by the MHT.
Ma'am, what is the right age to start MHT in such women?
So the studies show that the benefits and risk of women who initiate MHT during the menopause transition are different to those for older women. The woman's age at initiation of MHT is important in terms of treatment outcomes. It is more favorable in women less than 60 years of age and within 10 years of menopause onset. These are the age group of women which are mostly benefited by the use of MHT. The less favorable are the women more than 60 years old, more than 10 years from menopause onset, and greater or absolute risk of coronary heart disease, stroke, VTE, and dementia. So age is a major determinant of risk and benefit of MHT. That is why it is more important for us to be aware of using the MHT. If we start at the right age, the woman is definitely benefited by it. So in the age group of less than 50 years, benefits far outweigh the risk. HRT should be offered. In the age group 50 to 60 years with menopausal symptoms, benefits outweigh the risk, HRT should be offered. Whereas if the woman is more than 60 years old, the risk equal to or outweigh the benefits. Treatment should be individualized in these patients.
And what kind of MHT is an ideal one?
So an ideal MHT should be the one which should give the woman a very healthy life, and she should not have any problems any menopausal symptoms associated. So relief of vasomotor symptoms, local vaginal effects, it should prevent fractures and bone loss. It should prevent cardiovascular problems, protect the endometrium with a favorable bleeding profile. It should not increase the risk of breast cancer, and it should not elevate risk DVT or PE.
Are there any risk assessment models for menopause?
Yes, we have risk assessment models for menopause. These are given by WHO. The breast risk assessment by Gale, CVD risk assessment by WHO CRD, osteoporosis risk assessment, OSTA, muscle health is assessed by SARC-F, a 5-item questionnaire. So here we have the breast risk assessment chart for patients. It shows low, immediate, intermediate, and high risk. So in the low risk group, we recommend MHT. Similarly, we have for the heart problem. So 10-year risk prediction chart of cardiovascular disease event, which can be calculated by gender, age, systolic BP, smoking status of the patient, cholesterol, and presence and absence of diabetes mellitus. Similarly, we have for bone. The WHO developed OSTA score, a risk assessment tool based simply on age and body weight, and identify the women at risk for osteoporosis. So according to this, the women are divided again into 3 groups: low, moderate, and high. The high risk patient, the therapy should be started. Now the advantages of these charts created by WHO is we can use this chart in our OPD. We don't need to do expensive investigations for the patient like BMD or DEXA machines will not be available everywhere. So by using these charts, we can do the risk assessment and start treatment for the patient. So these are really beneficial, and every doctor should have it in their clinic.
Ma'am, how do you choose a right MHT for your patients?
Yeah, so we have variety of MHTs available, and every patient should have an individualized treatment for her to have the complete benefits of the MHT. So we have estrogen and progesterone. So the route of estrogens and the tablets available are oral, transdermal, and vaginal. For progesterone, we have oral progesterone, vaginal, and intrauterine levonorgestrel system. So different dosing regimen are recommended depending on the woman's age and medical history. Women who have undergone hysterectomy should be prescribed unopposed estrogen therapy, which consists of continuous estrogen treatment. For women with an intact uterus, a progesterone should be given in addition to the estrogen. This treatment is referred to as combined HRT. It can be either cyclical, that is sequential, or continuous depending on the time since last menses. For combined cyclical or sequential HRT, estrogen is usually prescribed for 21 or 28 days of the cycle, and the progesterone is given for 10 or 12 days. The cyclical use of a progesterone results in withdrawal bleeding at the end of each progesterone cycle. For combined continuous HRT, both the estrogen and the progesterone are given on a daily basis, meaning that women remain amenorrheic, although spotting is common during the first few months of treatment. So how do we decide which kind of MHT we have to give to the patient? Largely depends on whether she has uterus or she doesn't have uterus.
Ma'am, what are the medicines to be prescribed?
So as I said, we individualize the HRT for the benefit of the woman. The stage of menopause transition and the treatment options available are: in the perimenopausal age group, we give sequential estrogen plus progesterone. Combined oral contraceptive, if not contraindicated, can be given in low doses. Estrogen plus progesterone intrauterine. Post-menopausal intact uterus, we give combined transdermal patch, transdermal estrogen plus oral progesterone or LNG-IUS, oral estrogen plus oral progesterone or LNG-IUS, Tibolone and TSEC. at any stage post-hysterectomy, transdermal estrogen, oral estrogen, or Tibolon can be given. The progestogen is added to prevent estrogen-induced endometrial changes. Treatment with estrogen alone has been found to cause abnormal cell growth in the lining of the uterus, which can develop into cancer. So if the woman has uterus, we need to give progesterone to her. The addition of progestogen protects against the risk of endometrial hyperplasia and carcinoma conferred by long-term unopposed estrogen treatment. The type of hormone therapy a woman receives will therefore depend on whether or not she still has a uterus. Now, women who still have a uterus usually use estrogen plus progestogen to protect the lining of the uterus. Women who have had a hysterectomy generally use unopposed estrogen. I'm repeating this because this is the basis of our treatment. Women who have had endometrial ablation need progestogen because some endometrial tissue may remain. So the options for perimenopausal women are continuous estrogen and sequential progesterone. It is the best starting option. Commence on day 1 of natural cycle, doesn't control PMS, transdermal option available. In estrogen plus progestogen contraception, potential contraindications to OC pills should be considered. Controls PMS, good cycle control, low dose and 17-beta estradiol options are there. Continuous estrogen plus LNG-IUS, the patient will not have bleeding, doesn't control PMS, transdermal options are available. Continuous estrogen and continuous progesterone likely to lead to irregular bleeding. PMS may still occur, may suit some women. Now coming to the estrogen, MHT dosing and route. So the available estrogens are CEE, 17-beta estradiol. You can see the route of administration and the doses that can be recommended. Estradiol valerate, transdermal estradiol patch, estradiol hemihydrate gel. Now, use of low dose to start and increase as needed is the best treatment that can be given to the woman in the early or starting time of the MHT. Younger women often require higher doses and vice versa. Low doses may not be sufficient to relieve VVS symptoms, so additional vaginal estrogen may be needed. Coming to sequential progesterone, the available tablets are dihydrogesterone, medroxyprogesterone acetate, norethiosterone acetate, and micronized progestogen. Now, different progestogen groups have different side effect profiles. So we must choose among these which will be the best for our patient. Many commercial preparations may have either MPA, NETA, or norgestrel. If there's a problem with one combination, change to one with a different progestogen. Consider reducing progestogen from 14 to 10 days per month. Micronized progestogen is bioidentical, but stick to regulated products. Coming to continuous progestogen, we have dihydrogesterone, medroxyprogesterone acetate, norethiosterone acetate, drosperinone, micronized progesterone, and LNG-IUS, which is given intrauterine. Recommended for women over 54 years age. Continuous progesterone allows a lower dose and no cyclical fluctuation, which may reduce side effects. Availability of some preparations will vary between countries. So the updated 2013 International Menopause Society recommendation on menopausal hormonal therapy and preventive strategies for midlife health said that progestrogens are not alike with regard to potential adverse metabolic effects, cognitive effects, or associated breast cancer risk, which when combined with systemic estrogen therapy. So HT should not be recommended without a clear indication for its use.
Ma'am, can you elaborate on benefits of MHT on VMS, VVA, GSM, osteoporosis, DVT, diabetes, and cardiovascular disease?
Yes, so coming to the benefits and risk profile of MHT in vasomotor symptoms, MHT, including Tibolon and the combination of equine estrogens and bezidoxifene, are the most effective treatment for vasomotor symptoms associated with menopause at any age, but benefits are more likely to outweigh risk if initiated for symptomatic women before the age of 60 years or within 10 years after menopause. Quality of life, sexual function, and other menopause-related complaints such as joint and muscle pains, mood changes, and sleep disturbances may improve during MHT. Now, all the data that I'm showing, or the slides which I'm showing, are based on multiple studies by international, Indian, and global menopause society. So relief of VMS remains the main indication for systemic MHT. Coming to the benefit of VVA and GSM, MHT including Tibolon is effective in the treatment of vulvovaginal atrophy, now also considered as a component part of genitourinary syndrome of menopause. Local low-dose estrogen therapy is preferred for women whose symptoms are limited to vaginal dryness or associated discomfort with intercourse, or for the prevention of recurrent UTI. A systemic or local MHT for the relief of VVA GSM is the second most common indication of MHT. Coming to the benefits of osteoporosis, MHT has been shown to significantly reduce the risk of hip fracture, other osteoporosis-related fractures in postmenopausal women. MHT is the only therapy available with RCT proven efficacy of fracture reduction in a group of postmenopausal women not selected for being at risk of fracture and with mean T-scores in the normal to osteopenic range. MHT, including Tibolon, can be initiated in postmenopausal women at risk of fracture or osteoporosis before age 60 years or within 10 years after menopause. Initiation of MHT after the age of 60 years for the indication of fracture prevention is considered second-line therapy and requires individually calculated benefit risk compared to other approved drugs. If MHT is elected, the lowest effective dose should be used. Coming to cardiovascular risk, randomized clinical trials and observational data as well as analysis provide evidence that standard dose estrogen alone MHT may decrease the risk of myocardial infarction and all-cause mortality in women younger than 60 years of age and within 10 years of menopause. Data on estrogen plus progesterone MHT initiated in women younger than age 60 years or within 10 years of menopause show a less compelling trend for mortality benefit, and evidence on cardioprotection is less robust with inconsistent result compared to the estrogen alone group. Coming to the use of MHT in diabetes, there's no contraindication. MHT reduces fasting glucose and increases insulin sensitivity. It reduces the abdominal fat, reduces the development of type 2 DM. So EMA's guidelines recommend the use of progesterone with neutral glucose metabolism effect to reduce the risk of type 2 diabetes and associated complications. In case of DVT and stroke, the risk of venous thromboembolism and ischemic stroke increases with oral MHT, although the absolute risk of stroke with initiation of MHT before age 60 years is rare. Observational studies and a meta-analysis point to probe lower twice weekly or lower compared to oral therapy. So as we see, MHT is highly benefiting women when we just start in the early years of menopause, that is within the 10 years of attainment of menopause or before the age of 60 years.
Ma'am, is MHT safe for patients with breast, lung, endometrial, ovarian or colon cancer?
Yes, so coming on the topic for HRT use in the case of cancer. Now, in the case of breast cancer, majority of studies have shown increased risk with estrogen and progesterone HRT. This increased risk is small and therefore is not statistically significant. Estrogen alone therapy at a standard dose of CE 0.625 mg does not increase the risk of breast cancer with up to 15 years. In the WHI, the CE alone group showed a statistical decrease in breast cancer. So breast cancer was one of the reasons why MHT was not recommended earlier, but nowadays after so many studies, done by different societies have shown that MHT can be given to breast cancer patients. So for the breast cancer recommendation, explain to women around the age of natural menopause that HRT with estrogen alone is associated with little or no change in the risk of breast cancer. HRT with estrogen and progesterone can be associated with an increase in the risk of breast cancer up to an estimated 17 additional cases per 1,000 current users over 7.5 years versus a baseline population risk of 22.48 per 1,000 women over 7.5 years. Any increase in the risk of breast cancer is related to treatment duration and reduces after stopping HRT. So it is recommended, but we should use with caution. Now coming to lung cancer, conjugated estrogen therapy alone does not increase deaths from lung cancer. A meta-analysis of 25 studies, HRT protects from lung cancer. A case control study showed 34% reduction in lung cancer risk with HT use after controlling for age, ethnicity, tobacco use, and body mass index. In the case of endometrial cancer, the Million Women study protective effect with HRT compared to women that had never used HRT. Recent studies show the small protective effect against endometrial cancer for continuous combined HRT users. In ovarian cancer, in women aged 50 to 59 years, estrogen alone therapy showed that the total cancer risk was significantly decreased by 20%. In the case of colorectal cancers, observational studies show that reduced incidence of colorectal cancer with HRT, particularly if initiated early in menopause. The use of CEE plus MPA across all ages reduced colorectal cancer incidence during treatment.
Ma'am, are there any adverse effects of MHT?
Yes, it has adverse effects. So potential adverse effects of MHT are, we have short-term effects and long-term effects. So in the short term, related to dose and choice of regimen, if we start with low dose, the short-term side effects of fluid retention, bloating, and headache, vaginal spotting and bleeding is taken care of. But unexpected bleeding is not unusual during first 6 months of therapy. But if we counsel the patient and we inform them earlier, these short-term effects can be taken care of. In the long-term effects, we have VTE risk. It is increased with oral but not transdermal therapy. And breast cancer risk, as we suggested, risk is influenced by dose, duration of therapy, and choice of progesterone, but it can be managed by use of right dose and for a shorter duration of time.
Ma'am, what protocol should be followed up, for follow-up for patients started on MHT?
The follow-up protocol after starting a MHT is, first we should counsel the patient a lot. Then we should always, assure them that we are there for them whenever they need us. Because initially when we start MHT, there are cases of intermittent bleeding, which may scare the patient and they may stop the therapy. So if we counsel them that it is normal to have, episodic bleeding after starting MHT, it will be taken care of. Otherwise, we have yearly follow-up of the patient, which is recommended.
Ma'am, what are the contraindications, documented of MHT?
Contraindications to MHT is known or suspected estrogen-dependent malignancy, undiagnosed PV bleeding, untreated endometrial hyperplasia, current thromboembolic event or myocardial infarct, untreated hypertension, active liver disease, or porphyria cutanea tarda. So these are some of the contraindications in which case the patient should never be given MHT. So coming to the take-home message of today's program, HRT is the most effective treatment for menopausal symptoms. Risk must be balanced against benefits. Treatment must be individualized. Lowest effective dose for shortest possible time should be given. Regular review recommended with ongoing discussions of risk and benefit balance. Prescription prior to age 50 has no increased risk. No maximum duration of treatment. Choose between oral and transdermal HRT options. Consider the progestogen. One of the main reasons why we are doing this program is to cause awareness for menopause and HRT, as it significantly improves the quality of life of women. A knowledge gap among some GPs and other healthcare professionals could mean that they are reluctant to prescribe HRT because they overestimate the risk and contraindication and underestimate the impact of menopausal symptoms on a woman's quality of life. So better education about menopause and its management for healthcare providers is needed regarding the long-term risks associated with menopause and the role of HRT, so that physicians can take health decisions which may result in improvement in quality of life of menopausal women. Doctors and health workers must make patients aware of menopause and HRT and also of benefits and side effects. Decision whether to take or not to take HRT is choice given to them. Set up local meeting or teaching sessions for interested GPs in each practice who can then disseminate information among their partners. Use the guideline and clinical knowledge summary on HRT to ensure that they are informed of actual long-term benefits and risks of HRT. So ending my session with, there is now a need to expand education and training for healthcare professionals globally to optimize menopause management around the best options for individualized menopausal hormone therapy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such an in-depth knowledge and awareness about use of menopause hormonal therapy. Ma'am, I'm sure there must be many doctors who and healthcare professionals who had dilemma of using this therapy for their patients. Now with these insights, I'm sure they will definitely try and follow these guidelines. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Reena, for conducting this session for me. And I hope it really benefits all.
Thank you so much, ma'am.